Before we go any deeper, you need to know the two big names caught in the middle of this story. First up is Ricky Gervais. There's no need for a long introduction because most people already know exactly who he is and what kind of heat he can bring.
Talking of all you Berts, it was a big year. It was a big year for our movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes. Shut up, shut up. I don't care, I don't care.
Then there's Ellen DeGeneres. For 19 years, she hosted The Ellen DeGeneres Show, which became one of the biggest daytime programs in television history.
The truth is, I am that person that you see on TV. I am also a lot of other things. Sometimes I get sad, I get frustrated, I get impatient, and I am working on all of that. I am a work in progress. And if I've ever let someone down, if I've ever hurt their feelings, I am so sorry for that.
She built her public image around one powerful word: kindness. Be kind to one another wasn't just a catchphrase, it became a major part of her identity. Hollywood's biggest celebrities wanted a spot on that famous couch. Ricky and Ellen may have seemed like they were living in completely different lanes, but headlines, viral clips, and a huge release of documents eventually pulled their names into the same wider conversation. So why is this suddenly getting attention right now? In 2026, the Department of Justice released millions of pages of records connected to Jeffrey Epstein, putting old claims, public figures, and past controversies back under the spotlight. But it's important to separate verified facts from online speculation and not assume that a person mentioned in records was involved in wrongdoing. And Ricky Gervais? He's never exactly been known for playing by Hollywood's rules. Over the years, he has publicly challenged some seriously powerful people and institutions. He has spoken about racism and inequality in the entertainment and awards industries, while also taking aim at the way influential circles respond to allegations of predatory behavior. From major studio figures to members of royalty, Gervais has built a reputation for saying the uncomfortable part out loud, and Gervais has even taken direct shots at what he portrayed as Hollywood's uncomfortable closeness to Jeffrey Epstein, right there on the Golden Globes stage. His 2020 Golden Globes monologue is still one of those moments people keep digging up and replaying. He compared Epstein's death in jail to what happened with his own Netflix character, then stared straight into that star-packed room and said, "I know he's your friend, but I don't care."
Listen,
people capitalize.
I've heard about it. I've heard of it. You know, in entertainment, it's all around. It's like,
don't you also think that she's one of those tooth and claw, get to the top? That's why she became Ellen in the first place, and that makes a lot of enemies.
She's A-type. She's an A-type personality. It's her show. It's her way or the highway, and it rubs a lot of people wrong.
Also, probably maligned most of her life because she was a lesbian, had to keep it in tight.
There's some darkness in there.
Yeah, there's some darkness in there, some anger in there, you know.
The room groaned, but Gervais didn't even flinch. And that's where his real skill comes into play. He has a way of slipping serious accusations and uncomfortable commentary inside a punchline. By the time people stop laughing or start looking awkward, the message has already hit. Whether everyone agrees with his point or not, the moment sticks. Think about it like this. A regular celebrity interview or news segment might disappear from people's minds by the next morning. But a brutal joke delivered right in front of the people it appears to target, that gets clipped, posted, debated, and replayed for years. That's the whole play with Gervais. He isn't only chasing laughs. His comedy is built to leave people talking long after the cameras stop rolling. Then, after millions of pages of Epstein-related records were released in 2026, old clips featuring Gervais began circulating online all over again. Only this time, some viewers were looking at them through a completely different lens. One moment in particular started getting fresh attention. Gervais appearing as a guest on The Ellen Show itself. People went back, watched what happened, and began debating whether there was more behind what he said that day. The question spreading across the internet was simple but loaded. Was Gervais hinting at something back then that people just weren't ready to hear? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but the timing is exactly what got people talking.
What are you doing? I go, giving blood at the orphanage. Because I don't want to say the truth. No, I don't like you enough.
His old jokes and warnings resurfaced just as Ellen's name was appearing in headlines again, making those clips feel completely different when viewers watch them years later. That's the wild thing about the internet. A joke can sit untouched for years, almost forgotten, and then suddenly explode back into the conversation when new headlines change how people interpret it. That's exactly what happened here, as old footage started getting replayed, analyzed, and debated all over again. For 19 years, Ellen's cheerful, be kind image remained at the heart of her public brand. Then in 2020, that image took a serious hit, and things moved fast.
We had so much fun together at that show. We laughed all the time. We played games all the time.
I felt it was not a family, it was an atmosphere of fear.
In July 2020, BuzzFeed News published an investigation based on interviews with current and former employees. Dozens of people shared accounts that painted a workplace they said looked very different from the positive atmosphere viewers saw on television. Some former staff members alleged they faced harsh treatment after taking time away for personal circumstances, while others described alleged racist comments from senior managers. Employees spoke of a workplace culture they claimed was driven by fear rather than happiness. Following an internal investigation by Warner Media into workplace allegations, including claims involving sexual misconduct, 3 executive producers departed the show. One former employee summed up their experience with a quote that hit hard: "That be kind stuff only happens when the cameras are on." So how did Ellen respond? She sent a letter to her staff and later addressed the controversy on air. Her public response included apologies to people who felt hurt, while she also acknowledged that things had happened on the show that she said should never have happened. Some of the show's own producers reportedly pushed back on Ellen's response, arguing that it didn't match what they believed had actually happened behind the scenes.
It wasn't the only epic movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long. Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
And the audience reaction came fast. Within months of Ellen's on-air apology, the show had reportedly lost more than 1 million viewers. Ellen ultimately chose not to renew her contract, and after 19 seasons, one of daytime television's biggest shows officially came to an end in May 2022. Later, Ellen pushed back on parts of the narrative surrounding the controversy. In interviews, she said the backlash felt strangely coordinated, almost as if everything had been organized against her. She also said she never completely understood how the situation spiraled so far, so quickly. That left 2 very different sides to the story. On one side, numerous former employees had come forward with allegations and accounts describing fear, mistreatment, and a toxic workplace culture. On the other, Ellen maintained that she still didn't fully understand why the controversy exploded the way it did. Those competing perspectives became part of the same messy public fallout. Then, in December 2022, Stephen "Twitch" Boss, the show's beloved DJ and co-executive producer, tragically died by suicide, according to authorities.
Phony, liar, hypocrite. That's my reaction. She's known about this for 17 years. She's created this culture. I was there from day one. We were all petrified of her. She was not nice.
His death came only months after the Ellen DeGeneres Show had aired its final episode. Twitch wasn't simply another familiar face on camera. As a co-executive producer, he also held an important role behind the scenes. After his death, some people online began connecting unrelated comments about Hollywood's secrecy to the tragedy. But there is no verified evidence that his death was connected to Ellen, the show's workplace controversy, or any wider Hollywood conspiracy. Still, the timing led to speculation online, showing just how quickly separate events can become tangled together once a major controversy takes on a life of its own. To be clear, there has been no official finding connecting Twitch's death to anything beyond what authorities reported at the time. Still, grief and unanswered feelings often lead people online to ask questions. In a story already surrounded by intense public speculation, the timing of his death became pulled into a much bigger conversation, even though there is no verified evidence linking it to Ellen, the show, or any wider conspiracy. Then came another viral moment. In May 2025, Aaron Rodgers appeared with Joe Rogan on The Joe Rogan Experience. During their conversation, Rogan pulled up an image of the distinctive striped building located on Jeffrey Epstein's private island, Little St. James. Rodgers looked at the image and said, "Oh well, you know where that is too, right? It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore." Rogan immediately guessed, Ellen. Rodgers confirmed that was who he meant. Rogan then pulled up an actual image of Ellen's talk show set and compared the pictures side by side. But Rogan pushed back on the suggestion, arguing that any visual resemblance was simply a coincidence. That didn't stop the clip from blowing up online and triggering another wave of debate.
Yeah, because I'm mean. Yeah, you can't be mean and be in show business. They'll kick you out.
She uses jokes to address the controversy.
I was in therapy for a while trying to deal with all the hatred that was coming at me, and at one point my therapist said, "Ellen, where do you get this idea that everyone hates you?" And I said, well, New York Times, Washington Post, Entertainment Weekly, Us Weekly. I think Elmo may have said something recently on an episode of Sesame Street.
The moment brought fresh attention to online speculation attempting to connect Ellen with Epstein-related stories, ahead of later releases of Epstein-related records. But a visual similarity between 2 sets or buildings is not evidence of any actual connection. And this wasn't the first time Rodgers had made headlines with Epstein-related speculation. About a year earlier, he had suggested that another famous talk show host's name might appear on an Epstein-related list, a claim that sparked major controversy and prompted public discussion of possible legal action. So by the time Rodgers brought Ellen into the conversation, people online were already ready to run with what he was suggesting, even though Rogan, the host sitting right beside him, clearly wasn't sold on the idea at all. That difference didn't slow down the internet. Once the clip started spreading, speculation moved fast. Then came the massive document release. In early 2026, the Department of Justice released millions of pages of Epstein-related records. Ellen's name reportedly appears within that enormous collection. But context here is everything. According to reviews of the material, the references included an Apple News newsletter mentioning her, tweets connected to her show that had been forwarded to Epstein years earlier, a redacted email quoting a college graduation speech she had given, and a forwarded message from a Hollywood publicist describing seeing Ellen dancing at a party in St. Bart's. But here's the key detail. Those references by themselves do not connect Ellen to criminal activity. Fact-checking organizations examining viral claims surrounding the released records have emphasized the same crucial distinction. A person's name appearing somewhere within millions of pages is not automatically evidence that they committed a crime or were even personally connected to Epstein. The archive contains references to hundreds of public figures and other individuals, which makes context absolutely critical. Meanwhile, another explosive claim circulating across social media was reportedly linked to AI-generated audio published by a source accused of spreading misinformation, not an authentic Department of Justice document. Analysts examining the clip also reportedly identified signs suggesting the recording was artificially generated. In other words, viral content and verified evidence can be two completely different things, especially when millions of documents hit the internet at once. And that is where this story takes another turn. Because once millions of pages hit the internet, the conversation was no longer just about what the documents actually said. It became about what people believed they might reveal. Old clips were dragged back into the spotlight. Jokes that had been sitting online for years suddenly had millions of new eyes on them. Screenshots appeared without context. Names were highlighted in massive lists. And social media users started building connections between people who, in many cases, had never been accused of doing anything wrong. The internet had turned a complicated archive into one giant guessing game. And right in the middle of that chaos, Ricky Gervais's old Golden Globes performance started circulating again. The clip was powerful because people already knew what happened next.
More tonight about the tragic of Stephen Twitch boss and the detailed steps he took to hide his plans. TMZ is reporting when Twitch left his home the day before, he took an Uber to a motel about a mile away. At the motel, he switched his phone to airplane mode so no one could reach him. The motel manager says he checked in under his own name and never left his room. We also now know that Twitch left a suicide note. Details have not been made public, but TMZ reports the note alluded to challenges Twitch had faced in the past.
They had watched major Hollywood scandals unfold. They had seen powerful figures face serious allegations. So when Gervais stood in front of Hollywood's elite and delivered that Epstein joke years earlier, some viewers began treating it like a warning that had been hiding in plain sight. But there is an important difference between a comedian making a joke about Hollywood culture and a comedian secretly exposing specific individuals. There is no verified evidence that Gervais was using that moment to accuse Ellen DeGeneres of involvement with Epstein. The connection being made between those separate moments largely came later, through social media posts, viral edits, and online speculation. Still, you can understand why the clips caught fire. Gervais had already built his reputation as the guy willing to roast the most powerful people in the room. Ellen, meanwhile, had experienced one of the most dramatic public image collapses in daytime television. Add Epstein's name, millions of newly released pages, Rodgers' viral comments, and years of old footage, and suddenly the internet had all the ingredients for a story much bigger than the evidence itself. That may actually be the most interesting part of this entire controversy. In the modern internet age, you don't need one document proving a massive theory for millions of people to start believing there is something deeper going on. Sometimes all it takes is a strange coincidence, an old joke, a familiar name buried inside a giant archive, and a viral video connecting the dots. But connecting dots is not the same as proving a connection. You strip away the dramatic edits, ominous music, and viral posts, the central question becomes much simpler. What can actually be verified? So far, the documented references to Ellen described publicly do not establish criminal wrongdoing or prove that she had a personal relationship with Epstein. Rodgers' comparison involving her television set was exactly that, a comparison. and Rogan himself immediately challenged the implication. Meanwhile, Gervais' famous Golden Globes joke targeted Hollywood broadly rather than publicly identifying Ellen. Yet somehow, years later, all three moments became wrapped into the same online narrative. That tells us something important about how celebrity scandals spread today. The original facts may start the conversation, but speculation can quickly become the bigger story. And once millions of people start replaying old footage looking for clues, almost every joke, interview, photograph, and awkward reaction can suddenly be presented as if it meant something nobody noticed the first time. And this is where Ricky Gervais becomes important to the story again. While the internet was busy digging through old footage and trying to connect every possible dot, his comedy suddenly started looking almost prophetic to some viewers. Not because he had revealed some secret evidence, but because Gervais had spent years saying things about Hollywood that many celebrities would never dare say while surrounded by the industry's most powerful people. Go back and watch those award show appearances, and you can understand why they keep resurfacing. Gervais wasn't performing in some tiny underground comedy club. He was standing on live television in front of actors, executives, producers, and entertainment heavyweights, delivering jokes directly into the room.
You know where that is too, right? On the set of a famous talk show.
Oh, Ellen?
Yeah.
Really?
Just look at the temple and then look at the...
What? Yeah.
It's strange to use the same. Ask Alex about that.
Well, it's a long-standing tradition to put Israeli flags sacred.
That setting made every punchline feel more dangerous, and when he joked about Epstein at the Golden Globes, cameras immediately captured reactions from celebrities across the audience. Some laughed, others looked uncomfortable, and years later, people online began freezing those reactions frame by frame, asking who laughed, who stayed silent, and who suddenly looked away. But here's the problem with that kind of internet detective work. A facial expression during a provocative comedy routine proves absolutely nothing about someone's knowledge of criminal activity. People can look uncomfortable for countless reasons, especially when a comedian is deliberately pushing boundaries in front of millions of viewers. Still, that reality didn't stop the clips from spreading like crazy. Social media accounts began placing Gervais's Golden Globes monologue alongside footage from his appearance on Ellen's show, editing separate moments together until it looked like every joke was connected, every awkward reaction carried some hidden meaning, and every old clip was another piece of a much bigger puzzle. It made for an explosive viral narrative, but the actual evidence was nowhere near as dramatic. There is no verified proof that Gervais appeared on Ellen's show with the intention of secretly exposing her, and there is no established evidence that his Golden Globes joke about Epstein was specifically directed at Ellen. Those connections were largely created afterward as people look back at completely separate events through the lens of newer scandals and controversies. Once the theory started gaining traction, though, it became harder to separate what had actually happened from what people online believed might have happened. And that distinction matters because Ellen already had a very real controversy attached to her name. The workplace allegations damaged the be kind image she had spent years building, with former employees speaking publicly about their experiences and Warner Media launching an internal investigation. That story was already serious on its own and didn't need an Epstein conspiracy attached to it to become damaging. But this is where internet culture gets messy. Real controversies and unproven theories can get blended together until audiences struggle to see where documented facts end and speculation begins. Suddenly, Ellen's workplace controversy was being mentioned alongside Rodgers' comments. Rodgers' comments were linked by some users to Epstein. Epstein was then connected back to Gervais' Golden Globes joke, and Gervais' old appearance on Ellen was dragged into the same conversation. Before long, separate events from completely different years had been packaged into one giant viral narrative. And maybe that's exactly why this story has refused to disappear. Every individual piece keeps pushing attention toward the next, even when there is no verified evidence proving the larger theory connecting all of them together. But beneath all the viral edits and online speculation, there is still a much more interesting question. If Gervais wasn't secretly trying to expose Ellen, what was he actually targeting with those brutal jokes? To understand that, you have to look beyond one viral clip and examine the bigger target he has been attacking for years. Not one talk show host or one celebrity, but what he sees as the culture of Hollywood itself, where fame, power, public image, silence, and accountability can collide in ways that keep people talking long after the cameras stop rolling. That bigger picture is what makes Gervais such an interesting figure in this entire conversation. For years, his comedy has focused on the gap between the image Hollywood sells to the public and what may be happening behind closed doors. Award shows are supposed to be glamorous celebrations, packed with designer clothes, expensive champagne, emotional speeches, and celebrities congratulating each other. Gervais has often used those exact stages to flip the mood completely. Instead of treating the room like royalty, he treats powerful celebrities as material for the joke. He has mocked their wealth, their politics, their public statements, and the entertainment industry's tendency to lecture ordinary people while dealing with controversies of its own. That approach is exactly why his speeches keep coming back whenever Hollywood faces another scandal. People watch those old clips and feel like he was saying something bigger than the joke itself. But that doesn't mean every punchline was a coded warning or that Gervais secretly knew the details of every scandal that would later explode. Sometimes a brutal joke is simply a brutal joke. The reason it survives is because the subject behind it remains relevant years later. And that brings us back to Ellen, because her story represents something Gervais has repeatedly mocked about celebrity culture: the difference between a carefully managed public image and the messier reality people may experience behind the scenes. For nearly 2 decades, Ellen's television identity was built around positivity, dancing, celebrity interviews, giveaways, and kindness. Millions of viewers knew that version of her. Then former employees came forward with workplace allegations, and suddenly the public was being asked to compare the cheerful television brand with accounts from people who said their experience working on the show felt very different. Ellen was not personally accused of every allegation involving the workplace, and some accusations focused specifically on senior staff and producers, but because the show carried her name and her public brand was so closely tied to kindness, the controversy landed directly on her reputation. That contradiction became more powerful than almost any individual headline. The bigger the public image, the harder the fall can look when serious criticism appears. Years later, that damaged reputation also created perfect conditions for unrelated rumors to stick. Once audiences begin questioning a celebrity's public persona, new claims can suddenly feel believable before anyone checks whether the evidence actually supports them. That is how a workplace controversy can become mixed with an old comedy clip, then with a podcast conversation, then with visual comparisons involving a television set, and finally with references buried inside millions of pages of Epstein-related records. Put those pieces into a dramatic video with ominous music, and the story can look convincing. Pull them apart and examine each claim individually, however, and the picture becomes far less explosive. Ellen's documented workplace controversy is one issue. Her name appearing incidentally in a massive collection of records is another. Aaron Rodgers making a comparison on Joe Rogan's podcast is another. Ricky Gervais joking about Epstein at an awards show is yet another. The internet connected these moments, but connecting them in a viral montage does not automatically establish a real-world relationship between them. That may be the real reason Gervais' comedy fits so perfectly into this story. His jokes work because there is already public distrust toward powerful institutions and famous people. When audiences believe Hollywood protects its own, even a punchline can start sounding like testimony years later. But comedy is not evidence. Uncomfortable celebrity reactions are not confessions, and appearing somewhere in millions of documents is not proof of criminal behavior. The real challenge is separating the controversies that can actually be documented from the theories built around them afterward. And in Ellen's case, there is already plenty to examine without stretching the evidence beyond what it shows. Her transformation from the face of televised kindness to one of the most heavily criticized figures in daytime entertainment happened in public, and it happened fast. The question now is not whether every conspiracy attached to her name is true. It is how one of television's most carefully protected public images became so damaged that millions of people were suddenly willing to believe almost anything they saw connected to it online. The voice stayed strangely flat from beginning to end, while the background noise barely changed. Details analysts said were consistent with generated audio rather than an authentic recording. So once you remove the questionable audio, misleading keywords, and viral posts built around them, what are you actually left with? Ellen's name appears in a massive government archive in ordinary and seemingly incidental ways, just as the names of many other celebrities and public figures appear throughout enormous collections of records. Based on the material described publicly, those mentions do not establish criminal wrongdoing or prove some secret connection between Ellen and Epstein, and that distinction is absolutely critical. But here's the part that made this story explode anyway. The simple fact that her name appeared anywhere within Epstein-related records was enough for millions of people online to start pulling at the thread. Old clips came back, forgotten interviews were replayed, Aaron Rodgers' comments resurfaced, Ellen's workplace controversy got mixed into the conversation, and suddenly, Ricky Gervais' old Golden Globes jokes started feeling urgent all over again. Not because those jokes prove a hidden connection, but because his wider message about Hollywood power and accountability continues to hit a nerve years after he first delivered it. Go back and watch Ricky Gervais's Golden Globes monologues with fresh eyes, and you'll notice something important. His comedy rarely focuses on just one person. He goes after the wider celebrity machine, the wealth, the private jets, the powerful friendships, and what he sees as hypocrisy inside an industry that carefully protects its public image. In 2020, his Epstein joke became one of the most unforgettable moments of his Golden Globes appearance, especially when he told the audience, "I know he's your friend, but I don't care." Years later, that line continues to be replayed as viewers debate exactly who or what Gervais was really targeting. But Gervais never publicly named Ellen in that joke, and there is no verified evidence showing that he was secretly referring to her. What he did was aim his comedy broadly at Hollywood's powerful circles, leaving audiences to interpret the punchline for themselves. And now, with Epstein-related records continuing to receive enormous public attention and Ellen's name appearing incidentally in material from the archive, some people online have decided that Gervais was saying out loud what others in Hollywood were too uncomfortable to discuss. Whether that interpretation is fair or whether the internet is connecting dots that were never connected in the first place, that's where the debate gets complicated. Because after everything we've looked at, one thing should be clear. There is a massive difference between documented facts, allegations, jokes, coincidences, and viral conspiracy theories. Ellen faced real and heavily reported controversy surrounding allegations about the workplace culture behind her show. Gervais really did make that infamous Epstein joke in front of Hollywood. Ellen's name has reportedly appeared in Epstein-related records in contexts that, based on the material described, do not establish criminal wrongdoing. Everything beyond those facts needs evidence before it can be treated as truth. And maybe that is the biggest lesson hiding underneath this entire story. In the age of AI-generated recordings, viral edits, massive document dumps, and social media detectives, a story can travel around the world before anyone stops to ask the most basic question. Is this actually true? Gervais built a career making people uncomfortable by joking about powerful figures and institutions. But whether he knew something specific or was simply doing what he has always done is a question that old comedy clips alone cannot answer. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Ricky Gervais knew more than he was letting on? Or is the internet reading way too much into jokes from years ago? Drop your opinion in the comments because I want to see where you stand on this one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to see the full story. I'll be reading the comments, so tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.